And this one is a cooperative game based on the video game with the same name. And the way this game works is that players are going to be working together throughout a campaign, trying to complete different objectives and goals in order to complete each scenario. In order to guide you through each of these scenarios, you're going to be using a main map. And this is going to allow players to choose which direction that they want to go throughout the campaign, with each of those locations guiding you to a specific scenario inside of the campaign booklet. This is going to outline some narrative, special rules, and map setup, as well as the goals for that specific scenario. And something that I think is really neat about this, opposed to a lot of other scenario-based campaign games, is that normally you're just using the scenario book to set up that initial state for the scenario and then to understand the goals. But in this one, you're actually going to be using it throughout the scenario, because each round you're going to be turning to the next page and it's going to have some additional steps and events that could happen that can just add a little bit more flair and a little bit more narrative to the scenario as you're playing through it. And another really cool design decision in this game that I'm a huge fan of is the way that the actions work in this game, because not only do you have your starting gear and unique abilities and specialties, but you also have a unique set of starter action tokens. And you'll be able to upgrade these and add more to your supply throughout the game, which is really cool because you'll be spending those in order to perform the various actions. But depending on which token you spend, it's going to change that action just a little bit. And these action tokens come in two different sizes, with the larger ones representing a longer action and the smaller ones representing a shorter action. The difference between these is that you can't use a small action token to perform a long action, but you can spend a long action to perform any action. And the way that the rounds work in this game is that you're going to have a player phase and then you're going to have the enemy activation phase. During the player's phase, they're going to be spending their action tokens in order to perform various actions, and you can mix and match the order of the players, taking as many or as little actions as you want at a single time. And these different actions are going to allow players to move around on the board, attack enemies, peek into buildings, or discover different cards on the map, which can do different things like change the state of the map, reveal information that you might need in order to complete a quest, or they could even cause some different events. And of course, there's going to be all sorts of different enemies out on the board, but there is also going to be these special anomaly tokens. And these are really dangerous for you to interact with, but they also can give you some massive rewards. Combat is resolved using dice rolling in this game, and as you can see, there's a bunch of different dice and a bunch of different colored dice, with different colors being more valuable than others, because in order to hit an enemy, you're going to be trying to get a certain number of pips on your die, and if you are above that number of pips, then that counts as a hit. But there are two types of hits in this game. You could either go for a headshot, which can be an instant kill, or you can go for a body shot, which will then allow you to roll a separate set of dice if you manage to land the hit. And when you roll those separate dice for a body shot, those are going to be indicating how much damage you deal, but they could also cause an instant kill as well, or a complete miss. And if you do enjoy stealth games, this game does incorporate a healthy amount of stealth in it as well. And there's essentially two things you're going to have to worry about. There is line of sight of your enemies, as well as the noise that you're going to be making. Enemies will be able to see in all three directions in front of them. And if you're passing through their line of sight, or if you're stopping directly within their line of sight, that's going to indicate how alert they are of your presence. This could cause the enemy to do different things, like become interested in the area when it becomes the enemy activation phase, but it can also trigger them to attack you during the player's phase if you happen to be directly in front of them. Of course, enemies do need line of sight, and there is a specific range that each enemy can see, so you'll also want to be trying to take advantage of that. But each action that you perform can generate some amount of noise, some more than others, and each time you do that, you're going to be putting a noise token on the space where that noise was created. Each noise token added to a specific space is going to expand the radius that that noise can be heard by the enemies, and an enemy is going to go and investigate whichever place is the loudest that they are able to hear. The nice thing about this is that it happens on the enemy's activation phase, so you do get to wait until all your actions are completed before the enemies are going to be responding to that noise. And during the enemy activation phase, you're going to be moving each of those enemies one at a time towards any noise that they're able to hear. And if they go face to face with one of your characters, of course, that's going to trigger a fight. We're going to be resolving using the dice rolling, like I said before. But if an enemy is unaware of any noise that you caused in your turn, they're just going to stay where they are, but you are going to be rolling a die for each of the enemies at the end of their activation in order to determine which way that they're going to be facing for the following round. The game continues like this as players perform their actions and try to complete the different objectives, and if you're able to complete the final goal of that mission, then you have successfully completed it and have won that scenario. And if this one sounds interesting to you, you can check it out in the description below and follow along to get notified, which will get you an additional character added to the game.